I'm Lisa from Pink Holly Bush Designs, and welcome back to Make Your Daughter a Dress. Today is lesson 11 and we are almost done. We are going to make our buttonholes and sew on our buttons. So the first thing you're going to need for today's lesson is to go find your sewing machine manual. Now if you don't have it or have no idea where it is, I'm sure it's online. Go do a Google search and find it. You're going to need the instructions for how to sew a buttonhole on your machine. So I'm going to walk you through the process of how to mark the buttonholes and give you some different tips to how to get a good placement and a good finish. But every machine is different on how it actually sews that buttonhole. And so my showing you on my machine isn't going to help you on yours. You really need to get your manual. I'm going to show you how you can set up to do a test buttonhole, and you're going to have to make sure that you can do that on your machine. So go find your manual, pause the video, and then come on back and we'll get started with our buttonholes and buttons. Okay, I've got my pattern piece 9, which is the button placement guide, and there's a different one for each size, and I've laid it on the back of on the right hand side of the back bodice, and I've lined this edge of the pattern piece right up with the finished edge of the bodice, and I've lined this up at the bottom, sorry, you can see it, with the bottom of my piping, and this is lined up with the top edge, and I've just clipped it in place. And then I've taken 2 pins and I've put them through each end, as you can see, of the marked buttonholes. And I'm going to take my purple marker and just bend it back, put a dot. Do it this way. Now at this point, get your ruler and just double check the markings. Are they all the same distance from the edge? Are they lining up here so that it looks right? And they are. I probably could have gotten my piping or my scalloped edging up and out up here a little bit more, but at this point we kind of have to go with what it is, so I'm going to leave that mark where right there. Once you've marked your buttonholes with the pin, you also might want to use your purple marker and just draw the line, especially on this middle one, or the middle 2 if you're making one of the larger sizes, so that because you don't have the waist edge or the neck edge to help keep it straight as you're sewing it. So having that line can help you keep everything lined up straight. Next, I've gotten a scrap of my bunny fabric. I've attached a scrap of interfacing to it, and I have a scrap of my lining fabric. And I've put these together, and I'm going to use this to do a test buttonhole. You never want to do a buttonhole on your fabric, on your your actual garment, without doing a test one first, making sure you have all the settings correct and that it's going to work beautifully for you when you do it on your actual dress. You can rip out buttonholes. I have done it, as long as you haven't actually cut the buttonhole itself, it can be ripped out, but it's not a fun thing to do. So this will help ensure that you don't have to do that. Okay, I've sewn my test buttonhole, and notice that I've done it horizontally on the fabric, because that's how it's going to be on my dress. I don't want it, if I had done it vertically, with the grain of the fabric, that wouldn't be mimicking what is going to happen on my dress, and I want to get as close as possible as I can. Now I'm going to cut my buttonhole open and make sure that my button fits through it. You can get this wonderful little button cutting tool with a little block of wood and a slicer, and I have that on my Christmas list for next year, but I don't have one at this point, and you might not either, so I'm going to show you how you can cut open your buttonhole. You can either use a sharp embroidery scissors or you can use your seam ripper. But the key in both cases is to make sure that you're not going to cut that and slice through the very end of it. So I'm going to put a pin at both ends, and I'm not putting it at the very end of the buttonhole because I don't want to slice through the bar here at the end. So I'm putting the pin right at the beginning of the bar. So with my embroidery scissors, I'm just going to use the point and I'm going to wiggle it into the fabric in the middle of the buttonhole and then clip up to the pin. And then with my seam ripper, you're going to do the same thing. You go in at the middle and you're just going to use that to go up against the pin. Now, I will tell you, I like using the embroidery scissors better than the seam ripper. I think I have more control. So I'm going to take out my pins and I'm just going to see, can I get my button through? And you know what? It's a little tight, so I'm going to make my buttonhole a little bit bigger. Let me see. Also double check that you've got it sliced all the way. But this button that I'm using is a little bit thick, and so, oh, it's okay. All right, so I'm happy with that button hole, so I'm ready to go try it now on my actual fabric, on my dress. Okay, I've got my buttonholes sewn and I've cut them open, and I've pinned the overlap in place. So the way you figure out exactly where that should be is if I go back to the bodice back, this fold line is this edge, okay? And the center back is 1/2 inch from there. And the center back of this side and the center back of this side line up. So I've put my pin 1/2 inch from the edge of the back. So that's the center back line. And I'm hoping if I bring this back here, you can see it's coming through on the other side. And that's 1/2 inch from this side as well. So I've lined those two center back lines up. The easy way to do it, now that I've more explained the theory behind it, is you have a total of 1 inch of overlap. So while you can't see it, I can feel the edge beneath here, and that lines up 1 inch. So you want to pin them as I've done here, and then get that purple marker again. Stick the purple marker right in the middle of the buttonhole and make a nice dot with the purple marker. So I'm marking exactly where the button should go on the back beneath it. Okay, then unpin and just double check that where your dots are makes sense. You know, are they the same amount away from the edge? And in this case they are. This one, again, my edging is pulling it down a little bit, so I'm going to move and sew the button just a hair lower than that. Okay, I've got my sharp again. I've threaded up with my just ordinary sewing thread. I'm not making a knot this time because I don't want a nice knot sitting in the back of my lining. So instead, I'm going from the front and I'm just going to go to, it's really tiny. Hopefully you see, I just probably 1/8 of an inch of thread is left. And I'm just going to do a couple little stitches right on top of each other. I am going all the way through, so this is going to show on the back of the lining, but I won't have a knot sitting there. Okay, and then I just come up into my button. Get it there, right where I want it. And I'm just, well, it's thick and it's slipping. I'm just going to go up and down right in place. Okay, once I've gone up and down in my button, through my button, probably 6 to 8 times at least, I'm going to turn it over and just do a couple little stitches to through that lining to finish, to tie it off. Now while I'm doing this, if you have not signed up for my newsletter, it is a monthly newsletter. It is filled with links to articles and other people's blog posts and just all kinds of sewing resources, contests, things running on Instagram or Pinterest that about sewing. So it's I really intend it really is a newsletter. It's not just news about pink holly bush, although that is there as well. But I think you'll find that there's all kinds of resources. So if you haven't done that, I think you'll enjoy it. Go give it, you'll find the link in the notes below to sign up for it, and hopefully you will enjoy it. All right, we're gonna button up these buttons. Let's see if I need to open them up anymore. No, we're getting there. And this is your homework for this week, is to get your buttonholes made and your buttons done. And we will be back with our last lesson where we're going to hem the dress. So happy sewing.